Do you have ADHD? And when you start to feel bad, sometimes your relationships get really messy or you get really confused if the person that loves you or your friends even like you? Let me explain where this starts so we can make sense of it when it's happening in our adult relationships. This normally happens around like the ages of 5, 6, 7, 8 when you're starting to develop this type of awareness in your brain. So a child feels a feeling and then goes, oh, it's the source of it. And for the kid, the source is actually the person. It's the initial point of contact and not really the underlying thing that's going on. So this can look like a parent saying, hey, take a shower, you have to go to bed, it's your bedtime. And then the kid is like, I don't like this feeling, it's because mom is mean. And tends to feel disconnected in that relationship because mom or dad is not understanding the kid's need or desire to stay up and play, which is totally normal. I also remember this a couple years ago with my kid where like maybe he knocked over his backpack or he was upset with me and somehow it was my fault. Like I made him do that because in his brain, that's what made sense. And at this stage, this is where it is so important for parents to really walk through that emotional processing, regulation, identification, understanding with the kids, because that goes a long way later on in life. And most of us who are adults today, especially if you had ADHD, struggled in a lot of these like executive demanding tasks like showering, brush your teeth, put on your clothes. And so we're probably prone to some really big feelings and meltdowns and receive stuff like, just suck it up, you have to do it, stop being a baby, your older sister can do it, why can't you, blah, blah, blah. There was not a lot of emotional coaching and regulation and modeling, a lot of times regression, so it's like learning to suppress that feeling versus learning how to work through it. And so when you don't know how to have this skill, you haven't learned it, it's not your fault, what can happen is maybe your partner goes to bed early and you were really looking forward to hanging out with them, and so there's this utter crush of disappointment. You know, some of that RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, kicks in. Maybe there's remarks or asks for doing things like picking up clutter, doing the dishes, etc. And it's not really about what the partner is saying or the person is saying. It's like, oh, I don't want to do the dishes. I don't want to do that. Just like I said about the showering situation for the kid. Or maybe it's just a supportive question. Hey, did you finish your taxes? Or did you finish that phone call that you were going to make? Maybe it's they need it to be able to do their part if you're in a partnership, or they're just giving information. Like, for example, my spouse informed me that my computer was on my bed and my kid came and was jumping on it, and it's probably not a good idea to put it on, to leave my computer on the bed. So what actually happens is that this feeling that is really about the act itself, right? Maybe having no bandwidth, maybe not wanting to put things away, these things that kind of dysregulate us and probably have for a really long time, all of a sudden is, ooh, this feeling is there, and you go to the source. It's because they said it in a certain way, or it's because they don't love me, or it's because they're not trying to be supportive, or they're just trying to parent me. Anyways, brains can go in a lot of interesting directions. And if you go back to this side, none of these things are bad in and of itself, even if it's maybe not said in the most supportive way, as long as it's not disrespectful, mean, or rude, or any of these things. Like, this is just good information to have and for a partner to feel safe to do or say any of that stuff. But because we were so disconnected oftentimes from our parents at this and not feeling understood or feeling dismissed, it gets so big, and all of a sudden it starts to become a real issue in the relationship for the person who tends to have grown up with unsupported ADHD. So when that rejection sensitivity kicks in, when you're sensitive or you don't know that it's really about the task and not really about the person who's bringing the task's attention to you, a lot of times then it can be like, oh, hyper focused on the relationship. There's a problem. You need to understand my needs and all these other things. And the information that you're getting is not actually about the relationship oftentimes, but there's that need, that unmet need that is deriving from childhood that kind of spirals things out and can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then this need for connection or the need for support or even receiving the care that your partner was giving is completely lost and is turned into something else. So this is a little bit why I think this happens a lot with ADHD adults and ADHD relationships because they have not gotten this skill broken down. You can feel free to leave me a comment if you want me to show you how I do this with my clients, and then how to choose like your behavior, because the feeling's okay. It's totally fine to feel utterly disappointed, utterly rejected, utterly alone, abandoned. That is your experience, and it's not trying to change that, but it is trying to make sure you get the right information so your behavior and your choices and your actions are actually meeting the underlying need, which is love, support, and connection, and maybe even help.